Listen to this. You may not be able to get your preferred painkillers over the counter anymore. That's if the South African Health Products Regulatory Authority goes ahead with its plan. Officials are currently considering making it more difficult to get codeine medicines that are Schedule II drugs. Let's find out why. I'm joined by Mlungisi Wondo, Acting Deputy Director of Law Enforcement from the South African Health Products Regulatory Authority. Thanks for your time, sir. We appreciate it. So why? What's the problem? What's the scare?
Thanks, Sean. The scare is not really understood. The basis of our comments are from the abuse of codeine-containing substances and others that may be dependence producing. However, the news that we're going to schedule is not really true. Those were the options we had on the table on how do we protect the public not to be affected by the dependence and other side effects that may be linked with the abuse or misuse of all those products. Currently, as we sit here, we're looking at all options of managing the abuse and misuse in the country.
So you're not necessarily looking at getting a prescription for these drugs, or are you? It's part of several options you're looking at.
Okay, let me explain a bit where is this from. The Schedule II was based on access to those medicines without a prescription from a doctor, of which most of them are sitting at Schedule 5 or Schedule 6, where you'll be looking at clearly a prescription from a doctor. You can't access it without a prescription from a doctor. In this case, all stands as an accessible medicine through your doctors or your pharmacist in pharmacies, where the pharmacist can dispense and record quantities they are giving to people. However, the problem is with the challenges. You may know about your codeine abuse in schools. All of that is because of now of the challenges that it's easily accessible even for wrong use. Because now if it's going to be used by kids at schools for wrong reasons to get high, then that's not what it was intended for. Hence the looking of how do we manage all that risk for public health.
Do you consider people who generally can't afford to go to a doctor and will self-prescribe? Because you know, there are people who would use Benylin, cough syrup, Sinutab, for instance, who are going to say to you, well, we can't afford to go to a doctor and pay 500 Rand just to get a prescription for these drugs.
Very true. That's why we're saying we're trying to minimize the scare on how it was interpreted. But however, that's not what we're saying, that in the future people won't be able to access those. Hence, I explained that the basis of looking at what can we do to protect and safeguard the public was to look at all avenues, of which currently the processes we have under law enforcement from SAHPRA is to work with SAPS and look at all the wrongs that are happening in the supply chain, where we'll get medicines in wrong hands or end up in the wrong use.
Yeah. Yes. Of course, for you to have actually considered this option means that there is great abuse of codeine products. How bad is it?
The visibility is bad with the use with the kids now, using it with your soft drinks and or sometimes with alcohol. Remember now with dependence, they can do anything to get money, to get more. So that's the worry now. And it's affecting them because they may not go to school further, or all those challenges of violence at schools. So that's why we had to jump in with the police and also other government departments. We're working at all, keeping all those problems. Hence, the rescheduling is not what we're going to do. Those were things that we were looking at. We're working with the pharmaceutical industry as well on those, on looking at options on how to protect the public.
What do you reckon is the best way to protect the public then?
It's the public awareness, as you're doing, because now as the more we talk about it, is the more people know that you don't use all those medicines just because they are available. You need to use it per healthcare professional's guide. In this case, that's why we are worried, is because people are accessing them sometimes through illegal routes, where it will be diverted outside the supply chain, and then people will buy it from the streets. That's the current problem we're sitting in.
Okay, thank you so much for your time and your insight. We appreciate it. That is Mlungisi Wondo.